In 1857, in the far north, a ship's captain staring into the vast ice is called upon by one of his crew members. The crew member who calls the captain informs him that they have to break through the ice that their ship is stuck in as soon as possible, as the men are tired and hungry. The man heads to the ship with the captain, and at the ladder leading into the ship, the captain announces to his men that they signed up for a mission and would see it through to completion, as they plan to reach the North Pole. On the ship, the captain tends to his feet before an explosion afar off makes him head out onto the deck. When the captain and his men arrive at the site of the explosion, he and his men see a wounded man, whom they hurriedly take back to the ship as a monster approaches. When they arrive at the ship and shoot at the approaching creature, the captain and his soldiers are stunned to see that their rounds of bullets don't have much impact on it. The captain calls on another batch of soldiers to aim and shoot at the monsters, but to no avail. Seeing this, the captain commands everyone to get on the ship. Some of the men try to attack the monster, but are swept aside by his sheer power. The creature gets aboard the ship and demands that the wounded man, whom he calls Victor, be brought to him. A few soldiers try to resist, but come to their miserable ends. The captain commands one of his men, Larson, to get the blunderbuss, a special gun, and with this, they shoot and knock the monstrosity off the ship. Looking over the ship, they initially think it is dead, only to see it rise again. The captain collects the blunderbuss and shoots at the ice surrounding the monster, cracking it and sinking the creature in the process. Sometimes later, when Victor comes around, he makes it known to the captain that he created the monster that is attacking them, and that it will come back and kill more of his men till it gets to him, as the creature cannot die, given that he has tried to end the monster as well. Victor tells Captain Anderson that when it returns, they should not resist but put him on the ice for the monster to take him away. Later on, Victor introduces himself to Captain Anderson as Victor Frankenstein, a name given to him by his father, which means conqueror. He lets the captain know that it all started with his father and his mother. Victor recounts his past to the captain. In the next scene, young Victor is called upon by his mother to welcome his returning father, who is a baron and surgeon. Victor narrates that despite his father's absence from their lives, his arrival back home makes the entire household bend to his will. Later on, young Victor can be seen praying to the statue of a dark angel when he hears the argument between his parents. Victor continues to narrate and makes it known that his father despised both him and his mother. Young Victor is brought up in the craft, being taught things about the human body by his father, and punished when he fails to recollect any information. Not too long after, while playing a game of cards with his mother, she suddenly went into labor. Victor runs to get his father, who swiftly attends to her and takes her into a room. Victor's mother gives birth to a boy named William, but dies during childbirth. Not too long after, she is buried, and this changes everything for Victor. Victor, believing his father didn't do enough to save his mother's life, looks daringly at him, promising to know all that he knows and beyond. Victor tells him that he is going to conquer death. Victor narrates that on the night he spoke to his father, he saw for the first time the dark angel in his sleep, who promised him the ability to have command over the forces of life and death. Victor makes it known that misfortune began to happen as the family's fortune dwindled. Shortly after the death of his father, his brother William went to one side of the family in London, while he also went to Vienna, before going to Edinburgh, where he tried for decades to expand the narrow limits of academia. Many years later, Victor stands in front of a disciplinary tribunal of the Royal College of Medicine, trying to defend himself from an almost certain expulsion due to his extreme methods and ways. At this tribunal, Victor shows the world for the first time the possibilities of giving life back to the dead. This doesn't help his case, as the professors only get infuriated with him for practicing the abomination. Victor is expelled from the Royal College of Medicine after this. Victor storms out of the hearing, and a man who came in while Victor was speaking waits ahead for him. He stops Victor and introduces himself as Heinrich Harlinde. Heinrich gives Victor Frankenstein a letter of introduction from his brother, William, who is soon to arrive, to introduce his fiancée, Heinrich's niece, Elizabeth Harlinde, to Victor, before they get married. Heinrich asks for a moment of Victor's time to talk to him about something important, and they step inside a building. Heinrich Harlinde, who was once an army surgeon, asks Victor if he really believes he can give life to a man. Victor replies to him, telling him he had just seen the possibilities moments ago, at his trial. Victor is about to dismiss Harlinde, before Harlinde tells him that he will change his destiny as he is going to show him something extraordinary on the night William and Elizabeth are to arrive at the quarters he has secured in Edinburgh. Heinrich and Victor meet on the day William is to arrive. Victor gives Heinrich the book, which contains all his research about giving life back to the dead, which he goes through and notices a limitation in his work. Heinrich asks Victor if he is familiar with the Evelyn tables, to which Victor replies positively, telling Heinrich that there are 4 planks, which present the nerves, veins, and arteries of cadavers. Heinrich surprises Victor by telling him that there is a fifth one, which happens to be the most compelling. Heinrich stands up to unveil the fifth plank, which showcases the lymphatic system, to Victor. Victor is intrigued by what he is looking at, and Heinrich tells him that he is going to support his pursuit with unlimited resources in return for a favor in the future. Moments later, they are interrupted when a man walks in to announce the arrival of William and Elizabeth. William embraces his brother and introduces his fiancée, Elizabeth, to him. The quartet eats together before Heinrich excuses himself, taking William along with him to his study, and leaving Elizabeth alone with Victor to talk, with Elizabeth believing that Victor's pursuit of his ideas makes him a fool. Back in the present, a commotion occurs outside the ship. The captain goes to check it out, and is told that the monster that they believed to be drowned was seen circling the ship. One of the captain's men tells him that the soldiers are getting scared and that they believe Victor should be surrendered to the ice. The captain makes it clear to everyone aboard the ship that Victor is under his protection as well as the Crown's. Victor narrates and makes it known that a few weeks after William's arrival, he rode with him and Heinrich Harlinde to a tower where he would make his lab, to conduct his diabolical experiment of giving life back to the dead. Victor makes it known that as soon as he laid his eyes on the tower, he felt destiny calling to him. Inside the tower, Heinrich tells Victor that anything he needs to be there will be provided, and upon hearing this, Victor tells him everything he needs and how he wants them to be placed into the lab, including a lightning rod system of pure silver, telescoping down into the lab. Victor and Heinrich shake on the understanding they have at the moment, and the work commences. Soon, Victor goes looking for condemned people who are to be hanged, selecting from them for his experiment, once they are dead. While at this, Victor notices Elizabeth, and tails her into a place where a confession is made. Being told to come around later, Elizabeth walks about, and when the woman in the confession box exits, Victor rushes into the place, pretending to be the priest, as Elizabeth walks back to give her confession. As Elizabeth spoke, Victor realized that he had been caught as Elizabeth saw him tailing her into the place. They walk back to the quarters together, where they talk for a bit. As Elizabeth begins to tell Victor about her fascination with insects and science, he begins to take an interest in his brother's fiancée, Elizabeth. Soon, Victor asks Elizabeth to dance with him. Back at the new lab, things begin to take shape as all that is needed is being brought in. Victor asks William to stay behind and oversee that things are done according to his taste, while also keeping him away from his fiancée. Victor begins to spend more time with Elizabeth in the absence of William. William, on the other hand, follows his brother's instructions dutifully, bringing to life the lab, just as Victor wanted it. Victor begins to work on his experiment to access the lymphatic system, which would make his experiment of giving life to the dead a success. Harlinde lets Victor know that, though the funding is unlimited, his patience with him is beginning to wear thin, and gives him just a week to get things right. Soon enough, Elizabeth visits Victor at his lab and there, she rejects his advances towards her, telling him that she has chosen his brother, before walking out. While Victor thinks about his rejection, he remembers a particular thing Elizabeth said to him before she left, and this very statement jolts his brain, as he now realizes how to stop failing in the experiment and make it a success. He moves towards the cadaver, makes the necessary adjustment, and the dead roars to life, to his utmost shock and amazement. Later on, a war that Harlinde made mention of to Victor happens, and with it, a lot of dead bodies, from which Victor can pick a perfect specimen to work with for the major project. Back at the lab, Victor works tirelessly, assembling his perfect human subject with parts from different bodies, timing it just right, as a storm that is needed to complete the work was on the horizon. Victor makes haste to position the assembled cadaver in a perfect position for it to be struck by lightning. Victor goes looking for Harlinde to tell him of the incoming storm. When he finds him, he discovers that Harlinde is sick. Harlinde, who had earlier told Victor that he would require a favor from him later on for supporting his experiment with the needed funding, tells him his intentions of being used in the experiment, placing him in the new body that Victor had assembled. Victor refuses, and in their argument and struggle, Harlinde falls a great distance and dies upon landing. Victor, not having time to waste, proceeds with his work. The cadaver gets struck by lightning with the use of the pure silver lightning rod, and initially, Victor thinks the experiment a failure again, goes to his bed, dozes off, and when he comes around, he sees the cadaver standing before him, alive and well. Victor introduces himself to it, keeping it calm. Victor leads the new creature down a tunnel, where he puts chains on it and leaves it, promising to come back to it. Victor makes it known to the captain that everything was new to it, and that he was there to mold the new creature, not considering what would come after creation. Having not heard from her uncle in a while, Elizabeth and William visit the tower, which is being used as a lab. Upon arrival, Victor welcomes them. Elizabeth asks about her uncle's whereabouts, and if he happens to be at the tower. Victor lies to her, telling Elizabeth that her uncle is away and that he will return in a few days. He takes William up to show him his notes. Elizabeth hears Victor's name being called from a side of the building and goes to check it out. There, Elizabeth comes face to face with the creature Victor has created. She spends some time with it before leaving to meet William and Victor, where she asks him about the man in chains and if he hurt him that way, but Victor lets her know that he gave the creature life. Moments later, Victor goes back down with them to meet the creature, where William is intrigued to see that Victor successfully did what he had set out to do. William asks Victor if the creature is intelligent, but Victor doesn't respond. Later, Elizabeth goes to see the creature by herself and introduces herself to it. On her way out, she is stopped by Victor, who tells her not to visit the creature. After his conversation with Elizabeth, which leaves him upset, Victor goes to meet the creature and hits it repeatedly. Victor storms out and goes to see his brother, telling him that he failed. Victor takes his brother to see the corpse of Elizabeth's uncle, Harlinda, revealing half of the truth to him. Victor lies to William that it is the creature that killed Harlinda and lets him know that he needs to keep the information from Elizabeth. Victor tells William to take Elizabeth back to Vienna and that they have to leave immediately. William complies and does as Victor asks. Before leaving, William asks to know the lifespan of the creature, to which Victor tells him it is brief. As soon as William leaves with his fiancée, Victor sets out to douse the entire tower with fuel, to set it ablaze, and kill the creature in the process. Elizabeth, not being at ease and having a feeling that Victor is going to kill the creature, asks William to turn the carriage around and head back to the tower. Victor sets the tower on fire and goes out of the building. As soon as he steps out, the creature calls on him as the fire rages towards it. Victor, in an attempt to head back in, goes to the door of the tower, but is thrown back several feet by the blast, breaking his leg in the process. Elizabeth and William arrive to see the burning building and Victor on the ground. Victor continues his story to Captain Anderson and tells him that it didn't end there, as in his quest to seek life, he had created death. A commotion occurs outside, and the captain goes to check it out, only to open the doors and find the creature standing in front of him. The monster Victor had created grabs the captain and makes a move to kill him, but stops when the captain tells it that he should go ahead and prove Victor's story correct. The monster, hearing this, begins to recount his own side of things from the moment Victor set the tower on fire, to the captain. The monster made it known that he called Victor as the fire raged, and quickly understood that he was alone. The monster freed itself from the chains Victor had put on it in time and jumped into a tunnel that led to a nearby lake, before the fire got to it. When the creature wakes, after washing up ashore, he stands and begins to explore his surroundings. A group of men spot him and shoot their guns at him as they do not know what he is, making him run. He finds a building which happens to be the family house of the men who shot at him, where he hides himself well, after hearing the footsteps of the men who shot at him, unknowing to them that he, whom they are looking for, is there. A blind old man who lives with the group in the house begins to intrigue Frankenstein's monster. He learns a lot about them by studying them from the shadows and longs to be a part of them, and he begins to render help to them when they are not watching. On a certain day, wolves come to attack the family's cattle. They kill some, but are soon repelled by the gun-wielding members who had earlier shot Frankenstein's monster. They make a plan to go into the mountains, find the wolves and end them. After they set out, the blind old man is left alone, and with this new development, Frankenstein's monster comes out of the shadows, makes himself familiar to the old man, and becomes friends with him. He learns a lot from him, and after a while, after revealing to the old man a desire to know where he came from, he goes back to the tower in search of who he truly is. Frankenstein's monster finds papers, which reveal the truth to him about who he is and also where he could find Victor Frankenstein. When the monster returns to the old man's house, he finds that he has been attacked by wolves, and in a fit of rage, he wrestles with the wolves, killing some of them and scaring the rest off. He tells the old man about his finding, and just as they spoke, the old man's family arrives, and they see him, whom they had earlier shot at, and think he hurt the old man. He is attacked, but stands his ground, dismembering one of them, before heading outside. They follow him and shoot at him, momentarily killing him in the process. When he wakes up from his short death, he journeys towards where he knows he would find Victor, and when he arrives, on William and Elizabeth's wedding day, he demands that Victor create a companion for him, so that he would no longer be lonely, as he cannot die. Victor refuses to listen to his request and asks him to leave. Denying his request, the monster throws Victor across the room. The commotion happening above gets to the wedding guests downstairs. Elizabeth, hearing the loud sounds, goes upstairs and sees the monster. She is pleased to see the monster whom she had developed a liking for at the tower. Victor asks Elizabeth to step aside as he brandishes a gun at it. Elizabeth, being protective, stands in front of the monster as Victor shoots his gun. Elizabeth gets shot, and when William gets into the room to see the state his bride-to-be is in, he rushes at the monster after Victor lied to him that it attacked her. The monster swats William aside and carries Elizabeth outside and into a nearby cave, where she breathes her last. William, who hits his head hard after the monster pushes him away, dies from his injuries. After William's death, Victor pursues the monster he created, and when he gets to the cave, he sees that Elizabeth had died from his gunshot. The monster lets Victor know that from that day forward, he will be his master. After leaving Victor alone, Victor pursues and hunts the monster across the face of the earth until they get to the farthest north, where Captain Anderson's ship gets stuck in ice. Here, the monster, in an attempt to die, blows himself up with an explosive he sees with Victor. After dragging Victor out of the tent, he ran to get his gun, but to no avail. This explosion is what catches the attention of Captain Anderson, bringing him to come across Victor Frankenstein and his monster. Back to the present, Victor apologizes and asks forgiveness from the monster he had created. The monster forgives Victor and pecks him on the forehead. Soon after, Victor breathes his last. Captain Anderson escorts the monster out of the ship, making sure the men outside do not shoot at it. When the monster leaves the ship, he helps them to break free from the ice by pushing the ship into the open sea. Captain Anderson announces to the crew that they are headed back home, to the crew's utmost joy. In the end, Victor Frankenstein got to understand that it is not about conquering death, but making the most out of life that is given, and when the time comes, rest through death. What do you think will become of Frankenstein's monster, now that he is free to roam the world eternally and alone? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, guys. Peace out.